This next session is billed as a fireside chat. And you can tell that this program was written in London. Because in LA, I don't think you have fireside chats. I think you have poolside chats. Anyway, so yeah, for our poolside chat, although not quite by the pool, I want you to put your hands together and welcome Kunal Sawarkar, who is the Chief Data Scientist and Head of Embeddable AI at IBM. So what we've just laid out from a sort of very macro perspective, you live in your day-to-day job. You were applauding, but Kunal is the Chief Data Scientist and Head of Embeddable AI at IBM, so he really does know what he's talking about. But I wonder if you could just start off with giving us a sense of your background. What led you to generative AI? I believe that there were somewhat extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah, people think like generative AI or ChatGPT is new, but it's not so new. In fact, my grad project was on this subject, and way back I was trying to teach machine how to write poems. So idea I had was, if I can pass on an image to the AI system, can it write a poem by taking image as a prompt, which is based on a situation that is depicted in the image. So if there is a couple dancing, it should write a poem about dancing. If there is a sunset, write a poem about sunset. So that's what I did, and it was fascinating. I thought we were getting into the realm of human intelligence that was not explored before. And that's why I did it.
This was good poetry, or this was doggerel?
Considering that I only took 18th and 19th century poems, because that's what I could lay my hand on the data, they were remarkably good. The challenge, though, was after that I was looking for a job, and everybody would ask, hey, present your best work, and I would present this. And all the execs would be like, is there any practical application of the so-called generative AI thing? Can you tell me, is it of any business value? So yeah, that was a few years back, but I think ChatGPT has clearly unlocked the potential of what it can do and captured the mind share like no other tool has ever done before.
So now, in your position within IBM, what are you actually doing? How are you using generative AI? Are you using it just as a tool with it? I'm sure you're not, but presumably you are partly using it as an internal tool within the organization. But in what ways are you using it also as an external tool with your clients?
Yeah, so IBM's approach is slightly different on this. We focused on enterprise AI. We operate in what we say is a highly governed space, companies which are in finance, healthcare, telco, and other spaces. And my job is to embed generative AI into the product of other companies. So that's why I call embeddable AI. And the idea is this is the product which they can build and take it to market to their customers so that they can trust it, govern it, manage it. So it is less about how cool the output is and more about how reliable, how traceable, and how accurate the output is. So we normally operate, we definitely use it internally to automate our own functions, but primarily to create a set of models which are not completely black box, where you can trace the data to the source and build the solution on the top of it so that you can manage the risk. I don't think anybody can say eliminate the risk, but at least you can manage the risk for the companies who want to embed generative AI into their portfolio.
Just pertaining to the question that was asked at the end of the last panel. So you were saying this is not quite a black box. So what is the difference? How do you manage to have some sense or understanding of what is being produced?
So there is all AI models is built on some data. Now AI was done before on your own data set. What a large language model did was to take data from literally everything in internet. And internet is, as already all of you know, is a place where everything good, bad, and ugly resides. But internet is also something more. It's a nervous system of modern human civilization, which is why ChatGPT looks so human-like. Because everything that we can think of, speak of, like experience with is already on internet. So it can produce something. However, the OpenAI did not go through any data curation process. They took the data, built a model. If you can curate the data, clean the data, and actually trace the data to the source, that can manage the risk to the large extent, which is exactly what we have done. We scrape the data, something like 10 terabyte, but after curation and cleaning process, the model is built on only 2 terabyte of data, because that is the only part which we found is free from hateful content, abusive content, pure profanity, something which is useful to the businesses like finance and other domain. So controlling the data and providing that auditable link, and then building tools like retriever augmented generation frameworks is a way to uncover a lot of how these things works. It will not be able to eliminate every single possibility, but in just last few weeks, we have taken generative AI system to production, where for large companies, where we were able to accurately get an output in 90 to 98% of the cases, which is what enterprises would like to measure before taking it to production. So you cannot always say it will be 100% accurate, which I don't think will ever work, because the probability is what makes AI possible. Otherwise, it will be a rules-based engine. So we have to have randomness there. However, making that your data is traceable, auditable, explainable to the authorities, if US government or EU government wants to see, hey, what did you use to come up with this, is a big boost forward to making it more mainstream in the business community.
Can I ask you how you see the role of big tech, especially let's just take Microsoft here. Mm-hmm. So some of your clients, as you mentioned, are software clients, and presumably they are competing against Microsoft. That has the ability to put OpenAI's products directly into its Office software, et cetera, at the moment. So are you seeing your customers already beginning to respond to that competitive challenge by developing their own AI-generated software? And how is that going?
Yeah, I think there is a collective FUD syndrome that has caught up the execs. FUD is like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So everybody is like, I have to do Gen AI or I will be out of the business. And I understand, like, because it is so captivating, that everybody is driven by the fear. And everybody has to put it into their product. I, however, try to tell other execs something different. I say that in my short life, this is the third AI wave I'm seeing. A similar billions of dollars put into by VC funding. The last big AI wave happened close to 10 years back, 2011, 2012, when for the first time, an AI system has beaten a human in computer vision. It was in 2011, 2012. And the whole world got into frenzy that now that computers can see, let's build self-driving car, let's build robotic doctors, let's build everything. Now look at 10 years back where we are. Self-driving car is still in a research prototype. And billions of dollars have spent from biggest companies, Apple, Google, all gone down the drain. I think the one provisional approval got in San Francisco last week. So you have to see 10 years from now, where is that billions of dollars? 40 billion is going to produce the result. Look at the second thing, and I can be candid here, is AI in healthcare. we were promised that a robot will see you now in 10 years. But still, I have to book an appointment with my doctor, and I don't get it quite soon enough. So doctors are still there, nurses are still there, compounders, paramedic, everybody is still there. The company which probably lost most money in this is IBM. Watson Health was IBM's biggest bet, and we literally lost billions of dollars in hard cash trying to put AI into healthcare. So we have to see, when we have a tendency in business community to overestimate the impact of some technology in a short run and underestimate its significance in a long run. And I think that's what was probably going to happen in Gen AI. With a lot of VC funding flowing in, there will be a pressure to show the return quickly. And it has what I call is a burning star syndrome. You have a big star which burns a lot of fuel, it quickly burns out and becomes a black hole. And if you want to harbor life, if you want to have an Earth-sized planet which can develop intelligent human beings, you have to have a mid-sized star like a sun, which can run dimly over a long period of time. So the investment in that happened 10 years back, burn a lot of cash, and then my execs used to say, I don't have money for AI because it's a money pit. I hope it doesn't happen same with generative AI as well. So my suggestion to all the companies is, don't focus on adding generative AI to your product. Everybody is going to do it anyway. Just see, can you reimagine your product from a customer point of view to it? Is a customer willing to pay extra if you do it or not do it? So make it a part of your growth strategy, not just because you have to add a label to it. Nobody care. Did anybody care that there is an AI in Amazon? Did they even advertise it ever? People go to Amazon just because it works, right? So that's what I think.
That's fascinating. What about the resource constraints? That we mentioned this briefly in the previous panel, but I guess you can see this in real time. The lack of semiconductors, the shortage of AI talent. Mm-hmm. How serious is this, and what does that then mean in terms of? Rodrigo was talking about 2024, but is 2024 optimistic considering the resource constraints?
Huge resource constraint when it comes to both the physical capacity as well as the human capacity of building generative AI. These things requires what we call GPUs, and only NVIDIA is currently having a monopoly over it. Then there is a whole semiconductor crisis going on with restrictions from China. So most of the bottleneck currently is where do you get the compute power? And second is where do you get this really skillful data scientists who know how to harness generative AI? Most of the time it looks like a black box is because the community which used to work here was so small. It is a complex field. I wouldn't call it impossible field, but it requires high level of math and stat understanding. So that actually can have a limiting factor. And that is when a tool like OpenAI, which appears like a black box and works like a magic, is so appealing. But when you talk to businesses, they don't trust it because they don't want data to be sent over an API to somebody else's server. They want an open box. They want an open source. And I think the lack of skilled resources and lack of compute power and the lack of data as well is going to be the biggest constraint in next year. And that's where I see that execs who put in a lot of funding will start getting impatient in a year or 18-month cycle when they have to show ROI on what they have put in.
Because that then presumably is pushing up the cost tremendously if you've got to pay for more data, more compute power. So what does that then mean in terms of the, ROI? What is the best use of that cash in the short term?
Yeah, I think the best way an exec can put his money into Gen AI is to have a longer term plan. So you have mentioned like a big three companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. None of them actually were able to come up with a top company in Gen AI or a top product in Gen AI. You look at top three companies in Gen AI, that's OpenAI, a private company, Hugging Face, still in Series D, and I think Anthropic still in Series B or C, right? Mm-hmm. So none of them were able to do it because this thing requires time. As they say, AI is hard and AI is expensive. And you have to have a slightly longer term vision to do it. So having what I say 1+1 strategy is helpful. You have one use case which you can deliver in a shorter time period, but then have a longer term vision of your product on how you can reimagine your product entirely with AI, which will take time and slowly burn the cash step by step to go there. I don't know. I mean, just a trivia thing here. We are all talking about GPT-3 and 3.5. Mm-hmm. Anybody remember when did GPT-2 came? Yeah? 2019. So it's almost 4 years that they took from going from GPT-2 to GPT-3. And I don't think many companies would have waited for 4 years to see the return or had a patience for it. So that's why you need to have right people with the right vision to truly unlock the value of AI. I think the numbers is something like 87% of AI projects fail to deliver positive ROI. That's a whopping number, and some 94% actually deliver a long-term positive ROI. So 87% fail. That's like a failure rate here. And many here would have at least tried some AI application in the past and would have seen it doesn't work that well. And when you talk about large language model, the cost is huge. There is a cost to build, but there is also cost to do inference. And you have to see, is the application I'm building really going to save that much 1 year down the line when everybody else has a Gen AI into their product? Is it really going to give me that much growth when it is having to happen, when the inference cost goes up? So those are the risk management, like ROI management thing that businesses should be doing before pumping into something that they have to do out of FUD syndrome.
What I love about this whole subject is that most people who are actually the practitioners, I mean, you hear a massive amount of hype in the media, but the practitioners are the soberest of all, and you being one of them. Kunal is obviously a fantastic expert on generative AI, and do ask him questions. I mean, so if anyone has a question, yes, over there.
My name is Eli. I'm with Huddle Up AI. Questions on, a lot of the examples and a lot of the conversation between this panel and the previous panel was around what we see in the enterprise sector and really B2B use cases of AI, right? But how do you see that now filtering down to the broader population, meaning, we talk about adaptation of AI in society. If you could share a few thoughts on how does that trickle into living an algorithmic society, let's say.
Wow, that's a very interesting question. So I think we are facing as a human what I call once in a century identity crisis with this generative AI. Now, what I mean by once in a century identity crisis is like we humans used to think that we are very spatial. Some 400 years back, Galileo said Earth revolves around sun and not other way around. And we got into identity crisis and put the guy in a jail because we used to think Earth is so spatial, right? And then we had Charles Darwin saying humans evolved from apes. We got into another crisis because we used to think we are some spatial species above everybody. Then some 100 years back, even Einstein couldn't believe quantum mechanics is real because it's all based on probability, which is exactly what AI is based on. Now, I think why generative AI has got into this weird approximation to nuclear weapons is because it is now mimicking what we think is the last bastion of what makes us special, which is our brain. It can talk intelligently just like a smart human would, not like an average human, like a smart human. It can write very articulate prose, and it can give some cogent speeches in a couple of months from now, like a smart politician given inspiring speeches. And we think like nobody else can have an intelligence like us. And now that there is a competition to us, that makes us feel very insecure. So living in an AI augmented human brain is going to be an interesting experience going into the future. I think we as a society will be better off with smart machines because smart machines makes humans smarter. I do worry, not like it will be a doomsday thing, but more like AI can actually give rise to a different kind of a problem, like artificial intimacy, which if generative AI can mimic human emotions, they would actually drive already isolated American people even more isolated. One of my grad project was actually on finding out the link between depression in the areas and the Trump victory. I found that there is a strong correlation between the areas which has high rate of depression and that swing from Obama to Trump in 8 years. And that's a huge crisis. In LA County, at the peak of COVID, more people died of overdose than COVID at the peak. There is teenage girls and teenage boys going through suicide rates. In fact, I saw fascinating stats this morning which said that in 20 years, the 20-year-old, who are dating and who are buying car and taking a job and looking at a relationship has got a 50-60% nosedive in just 20 years. And what happened in 20 years? I guess mobile internet, Instagram, social media. So I worry that generative AI may made us some of more isolated and artificially intimate society where people forget how to talk to other humans, why the human connection is important. And that can be a dangerous thing because there is no known human surviving specimen that can live alone all the time. And that can give rise to more political and social problem than we can think of now.
Fascinating. I mean, especially now, if ChatGPT can talk to you.
Yes.
There's another good reason for just.
Yeah, I saw one LLM-based toy which was designed for 2-year-old to be their buddy, and I was a little scared because I don't want my 2-year-old to grow with something that mimics human. They will never know what a real human is that way.
More questions? Yes. Yes, over here, over this side of the room. Yes.
Right.
To you, please.
Kind of based on your experience, right? I think you have been working with probably many different companies or clients, So two things, one is, how you really measure the success of AI, right? So, like looking at accuracy or looking at, any business outcome, impacts, right? And the second, what do you think, that critical, to really improve, the success rate, the ROI? So can you share some experience?
Yeah, I think it goes with the agenda here is that are you really trying to automate something or really trying to transform something with AI? Most of the applications that start with AI begin with a goal of automation of existing processes. Like, hey, I do this way with 4 humans, things going from this block to another block. And if I try to automate it, and maybe I will save some value. Maybe I will save some cost and generate some value. And I try to think like in such a way ROI is low because automation is expensive. It is, and automating with AI is even more expensive because you need to have most costliest of the team as well as the resources. So don't think about automating something that people are doing, rather think beyond. Think like a transformation agenda. Think what is it a growth factor or is it a cost saving factor? Are you doing it to reduce the cost or are you doing it to drive new growth? I firmly believe is that AI gives positive ROI when it is part of your growth mission. In fact, McKinsey has done some study which said like you have to spend something like a 5% of IT budget on AI to see the good ROI. And it's not something that you can do it in stages. You don't have to put all the money together. But it has to be a growth-driven product development tool rather than something that you are running on the sidelines. So you have to reimagine how people do engage with a product. Giving Amazon example, not trying to mimic retail experience to it. Nobody recommend to you when you walk into Walmart, right? Imagine the people running behind you. Do you want to? But yeah, take this. Exactly. So that is where the power of AI is. You have to reimagine what people really want, and do that, transform the experience. Sorry.
Yeah, can I just ask you, within IBM, you mentioned earlier on that you are actually using it to improve efficiencies within the company. So what impact has that had on the workforce, and what's the acceptance been like?
Yeah, so we definitely started deploying this. Internally, the one function we definitely started transforming is our HR function. So for managing all the workforce management related issues, instead of having a HR partner, can we have a single ChatGPT-like interface that takes care of all the HR related needs? And I think we have also done this actual measurement of how effective it was. And something like in a year, we saved 120,000 person hours.
You saved 120,000 person hours.
Yeah. So the goal is to actually cut down the 30% of non-client facing staff, especially in functions like HR and support and in other internal support, to be replaced by new AI-driven tools.
And how did the HR department, the HR employees react to this?
Yeah. So that is always the question that we as a society has to address whenever there is a change in the tool. We are sitting in Hollywood, right? Imagine 100 years back when movies started, people who are in theaters and painters, they started saying this is going to take away our job, right? I think with new tools, there will be a transition phase that we will have to go through, but it will unlock new creativity and new productivity. I think I don't remember who said it, but something like life is beautiful, but birth is painful. So I'm very optimistic that after the transition, we would be able to do a lot better things with Gen AI. Like it can create new creativity that we haven't seen before. It can make disability disappear. Imagine people with paralysis, stroke, quadriplegic, who cannot talk, are able to communicate, who cannot see are able to do. Just as, today's generation doesn't appreciate eradication of polio. We just take it for granted, right? I think a couple of decades from now, there won't be any disabled people thanks to Gen AI. some fascinating research going on there. And that's a really net benefit to society. But we have to find transition for all the people, especially those who are doing their HR job or some other job for a really long time, how we upskill them on that. In fact, even without them, I guess some 40% people, based on a study, would require upskilling on generative AI. That's a huge population of workforce. So I think everybody will have to do it in some way or another. It is just how we manage the transition. Do we manage it smoothly? Or do we manage it, or the way we manage manufacturing transition in this country, very badly?
Well, I think that's a really good point on which to conclude the discussion. We are actually out of time, but I'm sure you can ask Kunal afterwards. I should think he'll be here for a bit. I just want to say, after sitting here next to Kunal and listening to this conversation, so he started off as a kind of designing the AI poet. I think that we have nothing to fear that AI is going to replace the human brain when you listen to the way that this guy thinks about things. So thank you, Kunal. Really, it was fascinating to hear.
And